And somehow this family had scraped together enough money to send their daughter Neha to a sewing center in a nearby village where she could learn a trade, hopefully get a job working outside of the brick kilns, have a family outside of the brick kilns, escape the cycle, basically. So on March 24th, she went to the sewing center, she went to her job, and she just didn't come home. And they find her after about a month and a half of searching, and she's in a madrasa. She's in an Islamic school in the city of Lahore, and 2 days after she disappeared, she was legally converted to Islam, and her name was changed from Neha to Aisha. These weeks and these months are actually crucial because our friends in Pakistan think that the most helpful thing we can do right now is make this case known internationally and build some pressure, embarrass the Pakistani government.
Welcome to Into the Supernatural. Today we're diving into a topic that does not get a lot of attention, these forced kidnappings that happen in Pakistan. We're joined by Joel Veldkamp from Christian Solidarity International. Joel, how you doing today?
I'm good. Good to see you, Billy. Good to see you, Jen.
Yeah, good to see you. You know, this is a story that really is deeply troubling. We'll talk about a couple of different stories, but this court refusing to return an abducted Christian woman to her family. Now, let's just backtrack here. Take us through what happened. I mean, I think this is such a foreign concept to us in the West that somebody could be abducted and forced into a marriage or forced into another religion. What happened to this woman?
Yeah, so this story began on March 24 this year. This is a young 18-year-old woman named Neha. Now, Neha's family lives and works in the brick kilns in Punjab province in Pakistan, and this is a really terrible set of working conditions, and I'm going to go at length about this for a little bit, if that's all right.
Yes, please do. Mm-hmm.
It's a whole industry based on building bricks in Pakistan, and normally the people who are working in the kilns building the bricks are debt slaves, essentially. They've fallen into debt slavery by taking out some loans during a medical emergency or something else. Usually they don't have very good education. Often they can't even read or write, and so they sign contracts not knowing what they mean, and they get stuck working in these terrible conditions for the rest of their lives, trying to pay off the debts passed to their children. The cycle just keeps going like this. Christians in Pakistan are about 2% of the population. They're about 60% of the people who are in this situation in Punjab province in Pakistan. So this is one of those families that we're talking about today. And somehow this family had scraped together enough money to send their daughter Neha to a sewing center in a nearby village where she could learn a trade, hopefully get a job working outside of the brick kilns, have a family outside of the brick kilns, escape the cycle, basically. So on March 24th, she went to the sewing center, she went to her job, and she just didn't come home. And the family fans out around the neighboring villages, frantically looking for her. They can't find her. They go to the police. The police aren't interested. The police don't want to hear about the story. So at that point, Neha's family comes to us, or to our partners in Pakistan, and says, can you help us? And we were able to get the family a lawyer, a very good lawyer, who's able to navigate the court system, and has a lot of success, actually. This lawyer gets a habeas petition through the courts. They require the police to go and search for Neha, and they find her after about a month and a half of searching, and she's in a madrasa. She's in an Islamic school in the city of Lahore, and 2 days after she disappeared, she was legally converted to Islam, and her name was changed from Neha to Aisha.
Can I jump in? When you say legally converted to Islam, what is that? I mean, they're taking her to court, and as you mentioned, they change her name and they just register her as Muslim. Is that what it is?
So in Pakistan, like in a lot of Islamic countries in the world, every person's religion is registered with the state. And the problem is, it's under Islamic law, you cannot change from Islam to Christianity, but you can change from Christianity to Islam very frighteningly easily. So once someone is legally registered as a Muslim, rather under pressure, under force, it's almost impossible to bring them back legally to Christianity. And that can determine who you can marry. That can determine all sorts of things about your life in Pakistan. So somehow they got a hold of this woman, and they very likely forced her to convert to Islam, it seems.
Hey, I'm Billy Hallowell, and I have something to tell you. This is really, really important. It's about Christian Solidarity International, which is an organization that I absolutely love. Now, as hard as it might be for us to comprehend here in America, but there are people in other parts of the world, all over the world, whose very lives are being threatened simply because they believe in Jesus. In fact, people are being enslaved, very literally, for their faith. Some of these people have been detained for 25 or even 30 years. Now, if you've been listening to me for any period of time, you know that I am passionate about the work that Christian Solidarity International does. This is work to help the persecuted church all over the world. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are persecuted and enslaved in the Middle East alone. The headlines right now are obviously very focused on the Middle East, and so that's why I want to talk about this today. Now, together we can very literally, and this is amazing, buy their freedom and save the lives of some precious brothers and sisters in Christ right now. We can do that right now, giving them the joy and the hope that we celebrate here in America so freely. For only $250, you can provide life-saving aid. You can actually buy a believer's freedom and provide them with what they need: food, a goat, other necessary goods for their very survival. Now, these are brothers and sisters in Christ enslaved and fearing for their lives. They need us. Now, let's get back to the $250. Maybe you can give more. Maybe you can give even a portion, but every single gift helps. You can actually go right now to www.csi-usa.org, and you can do what you can right there to help. You'll see my picture when you scroll down. Click on that where it says give, and give whatever you can. That's www.csi-usa.org. Thank you so much. I want to ask another question too about this, because you said something else. I think people are going to say, wait, what? When they went to the police, you said the police were not interested.
Mhm.
And, if somebody is kidnapped in America, you go to the police, and 99% of the time, they're going to be very interested in helping you figure out where that loved one is, what happened. They're going to dig in and try to solve it. Why is it that the police in Pakistan are not interested when families like this come to them and ask for help?
My guess is that they knew what had happened, that they knew the people behind the kidnapping. We think we know who they are. They're a fairly well-known Islamic cleric in the area with a lot of powerful connections. And I think the police kind of understood, oh, a Christian girl disappeared. We know what happened, and we're not going to make a big deal about this, either because it's too much trouble, or because they know there's no hope of success, or because they think it's good that a Christian woman should be brought into Islam in this forcible way.
Gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So the story
go ahead.
continues because, shockingly, actually, the lawyer who we provided for this family has a lot of success and is able to get the court to order that Neha be brought to court so that the family could have their day, could petition for her to be returned to them. But when the court appearance day comes on June 9, Neha arrives in court dressed head to toe in black. So extremely, extremely conservative Muslim clothing for women. Far more extreme than most women in Pakistan would actually wear. And in the court, very, very shortly, the judge does not allow her parents to talk to her, doesn't take any steps to ascertain whether she feels safe, whether she feels free to speak her own will or her own mind, just asks her in front of the whole court, in front of the people who probably kidnapped her and have been threatening her for the past 3 months, asks her, do you want to go with your family? And she says no, very meekly. And the judge says, case is done, she's going back to the madrasa. So the family at this point is completely desperate because they did everything right. They got a very good lawyer. They used the police and the legal system in the right way. They got her all the way to be in the same room as them. And at that moment, the judge collapses the whole case. So that's where we stand right now with this case of Neha.
Do you think she could potentially be? Obviously, there's a chance that she's made this choice after being kidnapped, but it sounds like when she said it meekly that purportedly there's some sort of fear that's holding her back from, because what happens if she says, yeah, I want to go back with my family? There are lots of cases like this. What happens then to the family? What happens in the community if there isn't support to protect them?
Yeah, a lot of really bad things can happen. Usually, when we're able to get people out of these situations, the family has to go into hiding anyway, because there's such
Hmm.
a strong social stigma against this. There's a sense that these people have offended against Islam and they have to be punished. There have
Right.
been attacks on entire Christian neighborhoods after Christians are acquitted of blasphemy or allowed to return to their families after a forced conversion like this. There have been judges who have been murdered for ruling the wrong way in these cases. So that's base reality for everyone in Pakistan. Now we have to put ourselves in the shoes of an 18-year-old woman who doesn't know how to read, who has spent the last 3 months with people who have been telling her who knows what, telling her, "We'll
Right.
kill your family, we'll kill your
Right.
sisters,
Right.
we'll." It's inconceivable that you would not take steps to ascertain that she can speak freely.
Gosh. I mean, you spoke about this a little bit at the top, but how frequent I mean, how often is this happening? Because once it happens, in a case like this, for instance, when people realize they can successfully do it and they can get away with it, right? And they can go take any woman they want, any young woman they want, force her into Islam, force her to marry them. I mean, it's human trafficking essentially is what this is. Um, how frequent is this happening in Pakistan? Like, how often are you dealing with this?
The best reports that we have say that this happens 1,000 times a year in Pakistan. So obviously we aren't
Yeah.
running 1,000 cases at a time. We take the cases that are brought to us, the ones where we think we can help. But this is a huge problem in Pakistan for Christian women and also for Hindu women sometimes.
So at this point, now that she's meekly said no and the judge has rendered his ruling, um, is there anything that can be legally done, or is this just a situation where, as Christians, we need to be responsible and pray for our sister Neha and ask that, her captors and even herself, if she's been brainwashed, programmed, that Jesus would encounter her? I mean, is that the situation where we're now just left with prayer, which is very powerful, but I mean, legally, are we at the end of the road for her?
No, we don't think so. So her legal team is preparing an appeal to a superior court in Pakistan about this. Um, that's why these weeks and these months are actually crucial, because our friends in Pakistan think that the most helpful thing we can do right now is make this case known internationally and build some pressure, embarrass the Pakistani government, give them an incentive to do the right thing in this case. So I was able to speak about this case at a meeting of the House of Lords in the UK a few weeks ago. After that, a member of the House of Lords sent a letter to the UK Foreign Minister about this. Right now, we're preparing some initiatives with some members of Congress in the US for Neha. So we are trying to build this pressure. We're trying to draw attention to the case, give people in the Pakistani government who have the power to make a difference the right incentives to do the right thing here.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a link to an article that Billy sent me this morning that CSI International has put out, and we will include that in the show notes. I would encourage everybody that's listening to please, you have a 18-year-old girl and her family who is suffering and enduring this. And, the Bible says that when one part of the body hurts, we all hurt. And so I think it'll take about 30 seconds, let's call it 90, 90 seconds of inconvenience to go to the show note links and post that link. Please share it on Facebook and Instagram, X, TikTok, if you're a TikToker and you're younger than me and can figure that out. But please post about it, because that is something that we can do that's practical. And Joel, is there anybody that we should be tagging to help? By tagging, I mean do we tag the Pakistani government? What do you recommend we do to help put pressure on?
I think Marco Rubio would be a good person to tag.
Okay.
I think it'd be good if the U.S. State Department got involved in this, and I think they would if the right amount of attention gets focused on the case.
Okay, great. So tag Marco Rubio, guys, and if anybody knows him that's listening, let's try to set up meetings. Let's bring this to his attention, because, in all my dealings with politicians, and Billy has dealt with more because of his job in journalism, they won't do anything if they don't know about something. We really do have to be squeaky wheels, and it's the least that we can do. And also, we should be, praying for Neha and her family. Um, Joel, you mentioned you had a very successful case recently, and I would love to discuss that a little.
Yeah, this is one of those stories out of Pakistan that actually gives us hope, that encourages us to keep going. This is actually a young man who was forcibly converted to Islam about 2 years ago. We call him Sabr. It's not his real name, but we can't use his real name for security reasons. But Sabr is from, like Neha, he's from a brick kiln family. And because he was in this extremely economically vulnerable position, huge debts, no real chance of getting a different job or a different place to live, some men approached him and said, well, we can get you a good job. All you have to do is come with us, like run away, leave your family. And so he did. And he very quickly found himself in a madrasa, in an Islamic school, being forced to convert to Islam as well. And they brought him to another city and put him into a very, very bad job, working for terrible wages, again, putting artificial debts on him, making him basically a debt slave. Only this time he was without his family, totally separated. So for 2 years, he was separated from his family like this. And this is really where we see the hand of God moving. The city where he was living is a city of 12 million people. And you can just imagine how crowded and congested it is and chaotic it is.
Yeah, that's bigger than Los Angeles for everybody listening.
Yeah,
just so you know. Yeah.
Someone from his home village saw him by pure chance and recognized him and went to tell his family about it. And once his family found out that he was alive, that he was there, they knew where he was, then again, they came to CSI and asked for help. And our partners in Pakistan were able to get his situation resolved, negotiate with the people who were essentially holding him hostage, resolve the debts that they'd placed onto him, and brought him back to be with his family. So they had a new baptism ceremony for him in his church, and his mother and his sister are just overjoyed to have him back.
I love that there's a positive story there, because I do think, obviously, the work that you guys do, it can be very difficult. It's harrowing. It is, you're on the ground. You have people on the ground dealing with this. You have attorneys coming in, stepping in to try and help. And, it's not always going to be positive. There are struggles like the first story we told, right? Where we don't know where that's going to end. And that's, like Jen was saying, we've got to step into prayer on this. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why we've partnered with CSI on this show. We talk about evil. We talk about deliverance. We talk about healing. We talk about miracles on Into the Supernatural. But what we're talking about here is very real evil. This is unbelievable evil. And it is driven by things that are spiritual, and they have real consequence in our real world. And we want to be talking about these stories. And, Joel, for people who want to help out CSI, be involved, and whether it's contributing to you guys financially, which I would encourage people to do, or prayer, or just knowing what's happening, where can people go to find out that information?
Yeah, the best place to go is www.csi-usa.org. That's where we have Neha's story and lots of other stories from Pakistan. You can sign up for our prayer newsletter there. We'll keep you updated about things that you can pray for on a regular basis. And if you want, you can contribute financially to the work that we do in Pakistan and in 14 other countries around the world for the persecuted church.
I love that. Well, Joel, as always, it's great having you on and sharing these stories. Again, we do this every month. We have you on to we have somebody from CSI, but it's often you to kind of break this down and talk to us about it, because spiritually speaking, we want to encourage people to be in prayer. So if you're watching this or listening to this, that you are in prayer for this family, for CSI, for the work that you do. This is heavy, Joel, and I know it's not easy for you. I'm sure you're watching this human suffering again and again and again in this persecution, and just having to navigate that is difficult even in your role. So making sure people are praying for you as well. But we thank you for coming on and taking the time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to both of you.